The story starts with the main protagonist introducing himself. His name is Cirrus, and he is an upright man. He shares that he activated a system not very long ago, as the person he had locked onto would stir up the deepest feelings within their heart, but he originally refused to do so until he encountered the present incident. So actually, what happened was that Ceres and his group were used as bait by higher authorities to lure out the enemies. It was all because they were of low grade, and the enemy was so powerful that they couldn't fight back. So everyone was running, but Ceres didn't want to. Here comes another lead role in the story, the demon princess named Yug. Yug laughs at Ceres and his group, asking if this was the power of human heroes, since they were so feeble and powerless, and no match for her great king. The companion of Ceres, a Class D hero named Bella, asks Ceres to run away as the Warcraft levels were too high, and he didn't have to worry about her. Bella said this because she thought he was an F-grade hero, so he didn't need to show heroics. Ceres responds by saying that he came to ensure the city's safety, so in such a moment, how could he run away? He also asks Bella not to worry as he could handle Yug. On the other side, Yug was yawning, saying that humans were so weak they didn't interest her at all. Ceres said that he wouldn't run away from the battle. At that time, his nose was bleeding, and seeing this, Bella tensely asked if his nose was bleeding. She then shouts at Ceres that just standing there facing them, her body couldn't withstand it, yet he was still trying to engage in battle. Bella again asks him to escape together, but it's too late, as one of the goblins told Yug that there's another person standing behind them. Hearing this, she moves towards Ceres, ordering her goblins to wipe him out. She also tells the goblins to use Ceres's head to make a wine glass for her beloved king. Seeing Yug coming towards him, Ceres logged in his power and locked Yug as his target. Just in a few seconds, she got locked with his power. Still, Ceres was tense as Yug came very close to him and opened her mouth as if she was going to eat him. But to his surprise, she kissed him instead. Due to this, his power got upgraded a little bit. Meanwhile, Bella was stunned to see that scene and shouted, asking Ceres what he was doing. Even the goblins were shocked and asked Yug what she was doing. When a goblin tried to come close, Ceres hit him with his sword and the goblin flew away from them. Seeing this, Yug snapped out of it and moved away from him. Ceres was acting like he got what he wanted, whereas Bella was in shock and blushing, embarrassed by that moment. On the other hand, Yug was wondering what was going on with her. Wasn't she supposed to wipe out Ceres? So why did she kiss him? She then thought it must be Ceres's fault. Ceres shouted that for the safety of the city residents, even if he had to sacrifice his entire body, he wouldn't hesitate. Ceres gets ready with his sword, asking the goblins to come as he would fight them. Seeing this, the goblins start discussing why their highness kissed a human, and they had heard that she found someone young, but they didn't think it could be a human. While they were discussing that, their leader goblin came and shouted at them, asking them not to be presumptuous. He questioned how dare they question their highness's feelings for the king. He said that they were monsters, and only filthy humans would engage in such infidelity. On the other side, Yug was tensed, wondering about the king, as the king should not find out about her kissing a human. It was really strange for her because her heart was beating so fast. Yug asks her goblins to go and wipe out Ceres. Ceres was standing with his sword and the goblin leader came and attacked towards Ceres. He tried to defend himself from the attack, but to his shock, the attack was so powerful that his sword got cut in half. Seeing this, he tensely wonders how it could be possible for a single strike to shatter his sword. Now, the leader goblin was coming for another attack, and this time Ceres somehow dodged it. At that moment, he realized that his defense hadn't been increased, but his attack power had increased by 100 points. So he attacked back, and surprisingly, the goblin's sword also shattered. Now, another goblin was coming from behind. Ceres turned around and attacked with his full power at that goblin, and the monsters got sent away, seeing which Bella was surprised to see that Ceres really sent the monsters away, realizing that a level F didn't have that much power. Ceres then tensely saw that the goblin he attacked with full power didn't get his body cut in half, as surprisingly, the goblin only got a scratch. While he was thinking and looking at the goblin in front, he got sneak attacked by Yug from behind. For relief, Bella saw it and warned Ceres about Yug's sneak attack. Ceres turned back and tried to block her attack by making a hand shield, but it didn't work, and he got stomped by her. A big blast happened nearby. Still, Ceres was alive and suppressed, lying on the ground. Seeing this, the goblin saw a chance and ran towards Ceres to wipe him out. Ceres got tense as he had no power and no time to defend himself. To everyone's surprise, a big tail came in the way and slashed the goblin away from Ceres. It was none other than Yug's tail. Seeing this, the other goblins were in shock, and the leader goblin asked about it. Yug orders them that no one is allowed to move from their places, and those who dare to disobey her will be killed. Her face looked like she was embarrassed and wanted to do something romantic, but she shared with the goblin that she wants to teach Ceres a lesson by herself. Hearing this, the goblins got happy and responded with a yes. Yug opened her mouth and said something, slowly going towards Ceres. At that moment, her saliva fell on his ear, and his defense upgraded by plus 50 points. Seeing this, Ceres was wondering whether it was the price he had to pay for his power, as letting an upright person like him go through such things was simply an insult to his character. But then he thought that compared to the safety of the city residents, a little insult didn't matter much. Meanwhile, Yug was also confused about her actions, as she was strangely taking the initiative to do such things to a human. Thinking about it, she got frustrated. As a monster, she should stop it, but when she tried, it didn't work, as her body wasn't obeying her orders. Again, the goblins, seeing the scene, were confused, as their highness wanted to kill the human, but it was looking like something else was happening. Hearing this, the goblin leader again told them that they were being presumptuous, so they should open their dog's eyes and see it clearly, as their highness was looking for a breakthrough with him. If they didn't understand, they shouldn't speak recklessly. Slowly but surely, his defense and attack power rose up, so Ceres was wondering whether now he would be able to deal with the group of goblins. He tried to take out his broken sword, but the goblin leader saw it and warned Yug, so Yug grabbed his hand with her tail and then choked his neck. She then held him up in the air with a furious facial expression. Seeing this, the goblins got happy and started jumping in happiness as their highness really wanted to wipe out Ceres. But again, she held back because of her strange behavior and will. She then went very close to him and asked if he dared to fight against them, the monsters. So, she threatened to strip him now, and saying that, she pulled his t-shirt and tore it into pieces. She told Ceres that she wanted to show the humans the difference between their weak bodies and the bodies of monsters. But deep inside, Yug was intrigued and desperately wanted to see Ceres's body and his six-pack. On the other side, the goblins were thinking that Yug's move was very ruthless and that she was giving a lesson to the humans. Meanwhile, Ceres got tense as his armor got torn, but he noticed that Yug's hand was coming towards him, so he tried to brace himself, believing that he could definitely hold on and couldn't let her get any closer. On the other hand, Yug was tense and also feeling romantic, knowing that it was happening from her deep heart, but she also tried to endure that and didn't act on it. Still, both couldn't endure and hold back, as now she was putting both her hands on him and was very close, with lustful eyes and mouth. Finally, she kissed him. Due to her teeth, he felt pain while kissing, and he realized that his current strength wasn't enough to fight those monsters. Bella was also confused and embarrassed, wondering whether they were fighting or engaging in romance. Here, Ceres was ready to endure every pain for the safety of the city residents, as he could sacrifice his own well-being for the greater good. Even though she was holding him, now Ceres held her and pulled her towards himself for the kiss because he wanted to upgrade his power and defense. While the kiss was going on, he was upgrading, whereas the goblins and Bella were confused and shocked. Suddenly, the real king arrived, and upon seeing her kissing a human, he was greatly shocked. His sword fell from his hand due to the shock, and he called for Yug. Yug stopped kissing and looked upward with an embarrassed face. Even the goblins were shocked to see the king. The king's name was Demon Lord Bartley. Bartley, in shock, exclaimed that she literally kissed that human. Meanwhile, Ceres's system detected Bartley, and a critical hit was received by him, doubling all his bonuses and leveling up by 1 level. Now, King Bartley entered rage mode and shouted that he was going to kill him. Yug, in shame, told Bartley that it wasn't what he thought and asked for time to explain everything. Meanwhile, Ceres wondered whether his current level would be enough to fight the king. King Bartley furiously attacked Ceres, shouting at him to stay away from his beloved Yug. In an instant, Bartley reached near Ceres, and due to the attack, Ceres was thrown into the air and fell hard on the ground, the impact greatly affecting his body. Bella tensely asks if he's okay, to which Ceres responds that he could still hold on. Ceres then wonders why King Bartley suddenly appeared in front of him, and why his attack power was surprisingly high. On the other hand, Bartley asks Yug if she didn't say it wouldn't happen again next time. Yug doesn't respond. Bartley is so mad that he's trembling, and he asks if she still remembers the last words she said to him, that if there's another time, let him have her wiped. So why on earth was she doing that? Surprisingly, Yug furiously responds that the reason for all of that is because of him. She questions why he came up so late, and what he was doing all the time. Both Bartley and the goblins are shocked to hear that response and the questions she is asking the king. Yug again shouts that it's all because of him, as he came too late and almost led her to repeat the same mistake. She also said that he messed up himself, yet he had the audacity to question her and threaten her. Bartley was shocked and confused, trying to say something, but he didn't know what to say. Before he could respond, Yug asks again why it took him so long to come and what he was doing during that time. So lastly, Yug became angry instead of Bartley, and the game got fully changed. This is what a woman could do. Yet Bartley tried to make up for his mistake, asking Yug to not be angry as he was wrong. He explained that he saw many humans running away, so he went out to deal with them first. Bartley was begging her not to be angry, saying that he wouldn't do it again next time, so please don't be angry. The goblins witnessed the entire incident and were discussing it among themselves. Goblin 1 remarked that their king was truly affectionate towards the queen, to the point of humbly admitting mistakes. No wonder he managed to marry a queen like her, a formidable woman. Goblin 2 shared that the realm between him and the king was still far off. Perhaps he should continue to embrace the single life. Another goblin realized his mistake and decided to convey his feelings to his crush, Mrs. Satir, the next day. On the other hand, Ceres was tensed and thought to slip away quickly while they were not paying attention, as the level between him and the monster king was too big. There, Yug started crying, which made Bartley even more tense, and he continuously asked her to stop crying. The goblins were still discussing about them and Ceres, while Bella was quietly running away from there. Ceres asks Bella if she could still walk on her feet, or if he had to carry her on his back. Bella responds to him not to worry, as her leg was a bit fractured, but she could still walk on her own. On the other side, Yug shares with Bartley that it's all because of him coming late, which led her to be tempted by that human, and they almost tarnished their pure and faithful love. She starts crying again, and seeing this, he asks her to stop crying. He says that if it's because of that human, then he's going to wipe out that human right away. He also asks if she wouldn't be sad if he kills that human, and she happily responds with a yes. She explains that he is her eternal love, and even in death, they would return to nothingness together. So how could she fall in love with other men? She also says that she just loves his majestic and domineering appearance. Until then, Bartley saw that Ceres and Bella were slowly running away. He became furious and shouted at the goblins, asking why they didn't stop those humans if they saw them running. The goblins responded that their highness had just issued an order not to interfere in her matter. He got furious, calling the goblins idiots, and furiously moved towards Ceres. In a second, he reached Ceres, who realized that Bartley had arrived. Bartley furiously asked Ceres how he dared to seduce his beloved woman, Yug, and then kicked him into the air. Ceres flew very far, and upon falling to the ground, he felt like his whole body was broken. He realized that he couldn't defend against the Monster King's attack, as the speed was so fast that it was hard to see. This meant he was no match for the Monster King at all. Bartley came very furiously towards Ceres, saying that he would split him in 2 parts. Upon reaching close and before attacking, he shouted that this was what Ceres had to pay for trying to seduce his woman. Ceres knows that now there's no other way. He could only continue to upgrade. So he shouted again at the system to lock quickly. The moment he locks the system, Yug arrives and slaps Bartley, asking him not to hurt Ceres. From that slap, Bartley was stunned and confusingly asked Yug why she did that. Ceres got the chance and tried to run away from there. Bartley, again with tears, asked why she did that, and realized that she truly cares for that human. Due to Bartley's crying, Ceres leveled up. Seeing this, Ceres wonders if he could win against the Demon King in the current situation, having just leveled up. However, he soon decides to go a little further away before considering the fight. On the other hand, Yug, in a lustful manner, said that she really needed that human body and tried to go towards Ceres. Bartley, the king, held her hand and asked what she was saying, as she had just said he was her lifelong love, so she should not go there. To Bartley's shock, Yug forcefully freed her hand from him and ran towards Ceres, saying that she couldn't stand it anymore. Ceres felt someone following him, and when he turned back, he saw Yug behind him. But it was too late, as she jumped over him and started kissing him. Seeing this, Bartley was shocked and sad, whereas Ceres had no other choice but to be at her mercy. Bartley said that it was because he wasn't good enough that humans took advantage of him. He blamed himself, saying it was all his fault, and declared that he was going to kill that human right away and get Yug back to normal. Upon hearing this, Yug furiously asks Bartley to leave and not disturb her quality time. Bartley was now in full shock, and his heart was broken. As a result, Ceres got a 5-level upgrade in power and defense. Bella tries to barge in, shouting at Yug to leave Ceres and calling her a shameless monster. Ceres even tries to warn Bella not to come near them, but she doesn't hear and gets attacked by Yug. Yug holds Bella in her tail and again starts kissing Ceres. While kissing, she wonders why she was acting like that, as she feels like she was no longer the same person. But deep down, she feels a sense of joy in doing it. Suddenly, Bartley stands up and shouts that Yug lied to him, as all the things she said were lies. He wasn't willing to give in, and Bartley goes to attack Yug. The moment he reaches them and is about to attack, she turns back and sees Bartley. Seeing her face, Bartley feels weird and shouts, asking his sword to stop from attacking her as he loves her so much. But still, Yug didn't care at all and turned back towards Ceres to kiss him. Seeing her again kissing Ceres, Bartley had a complete breakdown. Furiously, he holds his sword and starts doing something, and as a guess, it could be a self-destruction. Here, Ceres' system detected Bartley's complete breakdown, and Ceres had an upgrade of +3 levels in his powers. Seeing Bartley like that, Yug asks what he wants to do, while the goblins got scared and were thinking about running. One of them shouts at the goblins, asking if they want to die, and if not, they should run. Something was happening to Bartley, and on the other side, Cirrus reached level 10 and his new skills unlocked. As Cirrus acquired a new skill, he took his sword and slashed away at Bartley with it. The new skill was known as Swift Body Slash, in which his sword could transform into a phantom and swiftly appear within a 5-meter radius of the enemy, executing a decisive strike. Seeing this, Yug also got stunned that Bartley was defeated in one slash. Ceres wonders that if he keeps upgrading, he should acquire some more skills. However, Yug was frustrated with Bartley as he didn't perform well last time either, and the second time was supposed to be calmer, so why was everything falling apart? Actually, she was expecting Bartley to be a weak guy, and it turned out to be just as she expected. Suddenly, to Yug's surprise, Bartley jumps towards her and grabs her. Startled by the sudden incident, Yug loosens her grip on Bella, and Bella is released. Bartley shouts at Yug to keep her promise and die with him. In response, Yug says she doesn't want to die. On the other hand, Cirrus's system informs him that Bartley was going to self-destruct, so he tries to run away, taking Bella with him. Meanwhile, Yug is crying and shouting at Bartley to leave her alone as she doesn't want to die. In a moment of desperation, she shouts and asks who will save her. Out of nowhere, Ceres appears and cuts off Bartley's hands with his sword. He then grabs Yug and runs away from the scene. In his final moments, Bartley calls out Yug's name and self-destructs. As the blast occurs, the ground breaks into pieces and all three fall inside. While falling, something strange was happening to Yug. When they land, Bella falls beside Cirrus, and Yug falls on top of Cirrus. Ceres wonders if they've just fallen to the bottom of the dungeon. Suddenly, he sees a salamander and is stunned. But soon his system shows that it was Yug's salamander form, and now her magic value was 0, and her health points were only 9. Yug runs and hides inside Cirrus's pant leg. Meanwhile, Bella regains consciousness and slowly tries to stand up, wondering about Ceres. However, in the process, she ends up in a crawling position and somehow gets into a weird position with Cirrus. At that moment, Cirrus receives a notification that he has been rewarded with the Naya map of the dungeon for defeating the Demon Lord. The notification asks him if he wants to open it. Ceres becomes confused, pondering whether he should open it or not, realizing that he needs to think carefully before making a decision. Suddenly, Bella sees Cirrus just below her, with his face near her private area. Shocked, she hastily moves away, apologizing. She trembles, deeply embarrassed by the incident. However, Cirrus doesn't seem to be paying attention to her. As he contemplates whether to open the map or not, Cirrus finally decides to do so. Upon opening the map, he sees various details, including dead ends, traps, and available resources. Seeing this, Cirrus feels relieved and happy, knowing that he can now navigate the dungeon without worrying about getting lost. He realizes he can proceed directly to the boss room with confidence. Hearing this, Bella becomes confused and asks what Cirrus was talking about, if he saw something. Cirrus responds with a simple, "No," dismissing it as nothing. At that moment, Cirrus realizes that only he can see his system, keeping its existence a secret. Ceres then asks Bella to leave from there, but suddenly he feels a sharp pain in his chest and vomits something of a purple color, resembling either blood or poison. Seeing this, Bella becomes tense and asks what happened to him, why he suddenly started vomiting. Surprisingly, it doesn't stop at vomiting, as his hand starts to burn and his little finger begins to shorten, consumed by flames. Ceres howls in pain, writhing on the ground as the agony consumes him. His whole body was being consumed by flames, and Bella rushes to him, hugging him from behind and holding his hand. She notices that his back is already bleeding, so she prevents him from running his hands on the ground any further. She also notices that his body is incredibly hot, as if he had been scorched by fire. With her help, the burning sensation in his finger stops, but not before half of his little finger flies through the air after being burned. Despite the ordeal, he feels some relief and assures Bella that he's all right for the time being. Tensely, Bella asks Cirrus what's happening to his body and why it's melting. Sadly, Cirrus shares that he has been poisoned. 6 months ago, monsters attacked the city, and he witnessed several monsters fighting with a hero from the guild. He also shares that during the fight, the monsters seemed to be fighting over a box. The box got slashed by one of the monsters, causing a blast. Cirrus was shaken by the force of the explosion and thrown into the ruins. While buried under the stones, something leaked from the cut box. As soon as it leaked, blood rain began to fall from the sky. The pungent smell stunned him, making him feel like vomiting. Everyone else started shouting and getting burned by the rain. Ceres shares that he was still under the pile of rocks and hadn't directly come into contact with the blood rain. However, his back hurts intensely, feeling as though it's about to melt. Despite not making direct contact, he was still poisoned by smelling the odor. When he woke up, he found himself in the hospital, where the doctor delivered the grim news that he had at most 1 more year to live. Suddenly, he sees something like a screen in front of himself and is stunned to read that the blood of the demon lord could cure the poison. The screen asks Cirrus if he wants to bind the system and become a player to receive clues on acquiring the blood of the demon lord. Cirrus agrees, and the next information he receives is that the blood of the demon lord is currently in the Nay dungeon. The scene then returns to the present, where Cirrus shares with Bella that he later discovered the antidote method, which is right there in the underground dungeon. Cirrus stands up and asks Bella to let's go, mentioning that there's a room ahead with clothes and weapons, so they should change first. Bella agrees, and they move towards the room. The scene shifts to another part of the dungeon where other people are also traveling. A man with a shield in hand walks ahead of everyone. Suddenly, his foot presses something on the ground, triggering an attack by a laser ray. Seeing this, the group's vice captain, Mark, quickly instructs everyone to step back. He warns them that there's a mechanism in place and advises them not to move recklessly. He emphasizes the importance of staying put, because any movement could trigger other mechanisms as well. The group is shocked, especially since their strongest defender, Claude, had his head easily pierced. They wonder how to proceed, considering that the cannon fodder group had already been sent as bait. Tyr shares that they have no one else they could use as bait. Suddenly, Cyrus, the leader of the group, speaks up, saying that it's not easy to get into the dungeon, so they can't just go back for the time being. Cyrus then suggests using the old rule. The person with the lowest grade comes forward. Upon hearing this, the lowest grade member, Makui, tries to run away. However, Cyrus furiously commands Makui to walk in front and find the correct route, reminding him of the consequences of disobeying orders. Makui was too tense to respond at that moment. Tyr intervened, asking Cyrus to stop as he had made an arrow that could bounce back and forth. Tyr suggested letting it go and explore first, hoping to trigger at least one mechanism to increase their chances of survival. As soon as Tyr takes out his arrow, which resembles a ball, Cyrus swiftly cuts it in half with his sword. Seeing this, Makui becomes even more tense. Cyrus shouts at Mark, warning him that if he catches sight of those shoddy creations again, he will wipe him out. Being a vice captain, Tyr doesn't respond. Afterward, Cyrus instructs Makui to get up and explore further. Makui, trembling in fear, takes slow steps forward. To his relief, when he takes his first step, nothing triggers any mechanism. Tensed, Makui struggles to decide which step to take next, contemplating among the many options. Seeing this, Cyrus shouts at Makui, asking him what he's dawdling about and urging him not to waste time, but to hurry up. Shaking and trembling, Makui somehow manages to move his foot forward and places it on the next step. Once again, he is saved as there isn't any mechanism triggered. Cyrus praises Makui for his spirit and urges him to continue hurrying up. Makui was overwhelmed with a sense of impending doom, feeling certain that he was going to die. Unable to walk forward any longer, he stops. Sensing his hesitation, someone from behind uses air power to forcefully push him forward. Makui, on the brink of falling, shouts that he doesn't want to die, pleading to go home. As soon as Makui's foot touches the next step, a big laser ray shoots out from the bottom, wiping out Makui in an instant. Everyone becomes tense, realizing that the attack came from below this time. They wonder if it's possible that the mechanism in the dungeon changes the attack location each time. Moreover, the beam of the attack always appears suddenly, making it impossible to perceive where it originates from. Cyrus stands silently for a moment before asking the person with the lowest grade to come forward. Suddenly, the door in front of them begins to open halfway. Tensely, they inform their leader, Cyrus, that the door is opening. Cyrus also becomes tense for a moment. But when the door opens fully and Cirrus and Bella come out, everyone feels relieved. They inform Cyrus that both of them were from the decoy team. Cyrus is stunned to see Cirrus and wonders if the members of the decoy team were supposed to be eliminated. He questions whether Cirrus disobeyed his orders and escaped to the dungeon. Cyrus's anger towards Cirrus likely stems from a combination of factors. Firstly, there may have been a sense of betrayal because Cirrus, as a member of the decoy team, was expected to sacrifice himself. Instead, he survived and reappeared, suggesting that he may have disobeyed orders or acted against the group's plan. Additionally, Cirrus's survival may have disrupted Cyrus's understanding of the situation and the control he thought he had over it. This unexpected turn of events could have triggered Cyrus's anger and frustration. The situation escalates as Cyrus confronts Cyrus with aggression, holding a sword to his neck. He demands to know how Cirrus knows the color of his wife's underwear, indicating a breach of privacy and potentially insinuating that Cirrus has been spying on or involved with Cyrus's wife inappropriately. This confrontation suggests a deep mistrust and anger on Cyrus's part towards Ceres, leading to a tense and potentially dangerous situation. Ceres responds tensely, explaining that he was training his instincts for the upcoming battle, which allowed him to perceive the color of everything around him. However, Cyrus dismisses it as a lie and is about to attack Cyrus, demanding that he quickly explain the relationship between him and his wife, Shuikin. This confrontation further intensifies the tension between them, with Cyrus seeking answers and Cyrus struggling to provide a satisfactory explanation. Cyrus's teammates intervene, urging him to calm down and reminding him that he can't kill someone in the city. Suddenly, Cyrus becomes furious and shouts that he would never allow them to slander his integrity like that. He declares that he will prove the results of his training in front of them. This outburst adds to the tension of the situation, with Cyrus determined to defend his honor and prove himself to his accusers. Cyrus boldly reveals his observations. The first person wasn't wearing underwear, Cyrus was wearing pink underwear, and the other two were wearing couple underwear. Upon hearing this, the first person urges Cyrus to eliminate Cyrus immediately, but the others oppose the idea, asking them not to take such drastic action. This revelation adds another layer of tension to the situation, with conflicting reactions among the group members. They express concern that if Cyrus were to eliminate Cyrus in the city and the body were discovered, it would cause unnecessary trouble for everyone. Cyrus asks for their suggestions, and they propose the idea of putting Cyrus in the bait group. This would eliminate their need for direct involvement in Cyrus's fate and potentially mitigate any fallout if his body were to be discovered. As the scene returns to the present, Cyrus wonders how he ended up encountering a raiding party when he had only come there to exchange equipment. It appears that they are lost, adding to the confusion of the situation. Cyrus then commands Cyrus to come to them, asserting his authority as a captain. Hearing this, Cyrus wonders if Cyrus once again wants the lower-level members to walk through the mechanisms as bait. Before Cyrus could respond, Tyr advises him not to move and shares his suspicion that Cyrus and Bella managed to survive, implying that they may have found a safe route. He suggests following their route to avoid the mechanisms, thus sparing the team members from unnecessary risk. Cyrus responds by emphasizing the urgency of defeating the big boss of the C-grade dungeon. He mentions that they have already sacrificed numerous valuable combat team members for this cause, and there's no time to turn back now. Cyrus challenges Mark, asking if he's truly acting in the best interest of the team. He suggests that if Tyr doesn't agree with his decision, he is free to leave. This highlights the conflicting priorities within the group and the tension between Cyrus's determination to press forward and Mark's concern for the team's safety. Mark's silence speaks volumes as Cyrus turns his attention back to Cyrus. He questions whether Cyrus's intuition has been trained and asserts that it's time for him to contribute to the team. Cyrus warns Cyrus to understand the consequences of disobeying orders, indicating that he expects full cooperation and participation from everyone. Despite agreeing to Cyrus's request, Cyrus hesitates when Bella raises concerns about the road ahead. She suggests looking for another route and finding solutions to the issue they may encounter. Cyrus pauses, realizing the validity of Bella's concerns and the importance of considering alternative paths for their safety. Cyrus responds by reminding Bella that Captain Cyrus had already given the order for him to proceed. He reassures her not to worry, confident that he will be fine. With determination, Cyrus takes the first step forward without any hesitation, surprising everyone with his resolute obedience to Cyrus's command. As Cyrus proceeds, the others wonder if he's being too reliant on his intuition to predict the mechanisms. However, the map is guiding Cyrus, indicating that he should take 3 steps forward and then turn left 2 spaces. This suggests that Cyrus may have a combination of intuition and strategic planning at his disposal. Without hesitation, Cyrus moves 3 steps forward. Everyone is stunned when he doesn't get hurt even after taking 3 steps, attributing it to luck. As Cyrus continues to move forward without triggering any mechanisms, the others become increasingly shocked, wondering why he hasn't encountered any traps yet. 1 step forward, Cyrus hesitates before placing his foot down. Cyrus, noticing this hesitation, becomes hopeful and asks if Cyrus has detected the mechanisms. However, Cyrus responds negatively, indicating that he hasn't. Everyone wonders how Cyrus could possibly know the right path, considering that gathering information on just the first half of the dungeon's terrain cost over a dozen intelligence agents. Their thoughts are interrupted as Cyrus jumps over a step. Everyone assumes that Cyrus's success relies solely on luck, especially since they believe an F-grade hero like him lacks the qualifications for intelligence. This reinforces their belief that Cyrus's progress is merely a result of chance rather than skill or knowledge. As Cyrus jumps due to losing his balance, Cyrus becomes tense, wondering why the mechanism wasn't triggered. The map instructs Cyrus to take 5 more steps forward. Hearing this, Cyrus becomes happy, realizing that he's almost reached his destination. Despite the initial misunderstanding, Cyrus continues to follow the guidance of the map, eager to reach his goal. Everyone is shocked to see Cyrus approaching them without triggering any mechanisms along the way. They question how Cyrus managed to navigate through the dungeon without setting off any traps, and whether he can truly rely solely on intuition to sense the mechanisms. Cyrus's seemingly flawless progress raises doubts and curiosity among the group, wondering about the true extent of his abilities. Ceres informs Cyrus that his progress was the result of his training and denies any wrongdoing with Shuikin. However, Cyrus remains skeptical, putting his sword to Cyrus's neck and expressing doubt about the validity of Cyrus's intuition, considering it nothing more than luck. Cyrus asserts that luck eventually runs out and orders Cyrus to lead the way from there, if his intuition is truly reliable. Suddenly, Ceres saw some mushrooms on the ground. The map indicated that the mushrooms were known as kale mushrooms, and when consumed by monsters, they increase stamina and relieve soreness. However, if a human consumes them, they may cause diarrhea. Upon learning about the mushrooms, Ceres wondered whether Yug was hungry. If so, he thought about picking some mushrooms for her to eat. Ceres then picked the mushrooms and pretended to like them as if he intended to eat them himself. While picking up the mushrooms, Ceres was wondering if it was too bad he was a human, so maybe only licking them wouldn't hurt him. He was actually doing that because he didn't want to show that he had Yug. But Cyrus noticed Ceres picking something up, so he asked about it. Ceres was about to explain about the mushroom, but before he could, Cyrus snatched it from his hand and ate it, saying that after conquering the dungeon, all resources of the dungeon belonged to the Heroes Guild and his crusade squad, and that Ceres wasn't qualified to take anything without authorization. Cyrus again ordered Ceres to get to the front. Ceres responded that there were no traps behind the door and they could proceed directly. Cyrus then said that if that was the case, Ceres should go ahead and open the door. Ceres was stunned. Seeing this, Cyrus asked what was wrong and added that he wouldn't let his team members with combat skills take the risk. He told Ceres to stop nagging and go open the door. Ceres approached the door and was about to open it, so Cyrus ordered everyone to stay alert. However, the mushroom started to take effect, and Cyrus began having stomach problems. He became tense and wondered what was wrong with his stomach. On the other hand, Ceres easily opened the door. Tyre again asked everyone to stay alert, as something unexpected might pop up suddenly. Slowly, people near Cyrus started smelling something bad, and it was none other than the gas Cyrus was releasing. Cyrus knew this wasn't good for him. Meanwhile, Ceres started moving further inside. Cyrus shouted and asked what was in there, but deep down, he was tense, wondering why his stomach was acting up at such a crucial moment, and whether he should apply a bit more pressure when gripping. Suddenly, he realized that the mushroom from earlier might be causing it. He decided he couldn't risk intense movement now, as it would start leaking. With a weird smile, Ceres told everyone that, from his observation, there were traps everywhere in the area. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Ceres started running, asking his teammates to keep up with his pace and run together. Cyrus shouted at Ceres, telling him he wasn't allowed to run and to walk slowly. It was an order. However, Ceres didn't hear it and kept running. Everyone else was running behind, wondering what was wrong and why they were running. They speculated if there was something behind them. Meanwhile, Cyrus released gas due to his upset stomach. He became even more tense as he realized he couldn't hold it any longer. Smelling the odor, everyone thought it was something dangerous, so they started running faster. Someone remarked that the smell seemed familiar, to which Cyrus, embarrassed, shouted at the person, asking them to stop talking nonsense and telling everyone to keep running, otherwise they would get poisoned. Upon reaching a place, Ceres stopped due to exhaustion. Cyrus furiously called out to Ceres. Ceres asked what was wrong. Cyrus then asked if Ceres knew the properties of those mushrooms and if he ran on purpose. Ceres acted innocent and responded that he didn't know what happened to those mushrooms. Cyrus thought for a second and responded with a dismissive "no," as if it was nothing. A teammate of theirs came and asked Cyrus to sit on a stone and take a rest, but Cyrus furiously kicked him, urging everyone to pull themselves together and keep moving forward. He also pointed his sword at Ceres, warning him that if Ceres dared to run again, he would immediately strike him down. Ceres tensely responded with a yes and moved further. Along the way, he warned about the traps to ensure they didn't step on them. It was highly effective, as just beside them, a dragon was sleeping, and if they stepped on that tile, it would awaken. Slowly, they reached the last area, and Ceres thought to himself that it should be the final showdown. At that time, Cyrus was wondering that the further they went in, the fewer the mechanisms were. Not a single mechanism had been triggered, and they also hadn't encountered a single monster all the way. So, Cyrus speculated, could it be that Ceres had been in the dungeon before? He also thought about what he was thinking. It couldn't be possible that Ceres had been in the dungeon before, as if Ceres was with his team. He probably would have been eaten by the D-level monster at the entrance, let alone reaching where they were. Suddenly, Ceres interrupted his thinking, saying that if they went further, they should almost be at the big boss's room. Hearing this, Cyrus thought that if they had already reached the boss room, then Ceres had no value left, regardless of his luck or anything else. Ceres had reached the end now. Ceres was standing below a sharp-pointed object, So Cyrus took out his sword, and with a little magic power, he tried to cut the sharp-pointed object. He successfully cut it, but it was still going to fall on Ceres. Cyrus was happy, thinking it would be a reasonable accident for an F-level dungeon explorer to get killed by a mechanism. However, Cyrus's luck wasn't that bad this time. He got saved unexpectedly by a monster. The monster attacked Cyrus, but the falling stone got in the way and was crushed instead. Cyrus noticed the attack, but it was too late as he got hit by the monster's tail. Everyone tensely shouted and asked whether Cyrus was okay, but to their shock, the monster came up behind them. Due to the attack, the place collapsed a bit, and a wall formed between Ceres and the others from the falling stones. On the other hand, Cyrus felt relieved that he reacted to the attacks and managed to block them with the help of his sword. Otherwise, he would have definitely died. Meanwhile, Ceres was checking the stone wall and realized that it was over. He was trapped. Suddenly, he heard a voice asking why there was a human in the dungeon. When Ceres turned back to see, it was a woman. The woman, named Sadiel, remarked that it was disgusting to see a human there near her. The monster, a puppet scorpion of level B+ belonging to Sadiel, stood in front of Cyrus and his team. Tyre shouted at everyone to be ready for battle, while Bella was tense because she found it hard to lift the sword they gave her. Tyre ordered the tankers to come forward and block the movements of the monster, not letting it break through. The tankers stood in front of them with their shields raised. Tyre then instructed the archers to quickly shoot from behind, taking advantage of the distraction created by the tankers. The archers followed the order and shot arrows at the monster. The arrows hit the monster, prompting Tyr to instruct the archers to keep shooting. However, the monster roared loudly, exerting a force that repelled all the arrows shot at it. Everyone also found it hard to stand in that force, and Tyre was shocked that the sheer force of the monster alone repelled all the arrows and their attacks had no effect. Suddenly, Cyrus stood up and asked why they were all standing still like statues, and that they should not be frightened by the aura of the monster. Cyrus tried to motivate them, saying that there was just one monster and they could defeat it easily. Meanwhile, Ceres also heard another voice and wondered if the voice he heard was that of another monster. Out of nowhere, a scorpion tail came towards Ceres to attack, but somehow Ceres dodged it, wondering what it was. Just then, the scorpion itself tried to attack Ceres with a lunge, but Ceres once again dodged it. He then stood still and asked the monster to taste his fist with 3190 attack power. With just one punch from Ceres, the scorpion puppet's body got a hole, and slowly all its parts blasted and scattered here and there. Sadiel was impressed seeing that Ceres actually shattered one of her scorpion puppets with just one punch. At that moment, Ceres was wondering that the antidote which could cure the poison on him was in the room just ahead where the boss was, so he couldn't afford to expend more energy on meaningless battles. So he thought to use the map and escape directly, sparing himself. Sadiel came close and shared that it didn't matter because she was planning to throw away things that had been touched by disgusting humans. She also told Ceres that she originally used the monster to twist his face, but now she had to do it herself. Seeing Sadiel, he got stunned as it was a female monster again. Ceres responded to her that his head wasn't a melon or something which she could easily twist off with her hands. Hearing this, Sadiel responded that she wouldn't touch his disgusting body with her hands. She then explained that although he could deal with outside humans with just his hands, she was actually using her hand to control the scorpion puppets with the help of a string. So she shared with Ceres that she would deal with him first and then go outside and kill the other humans. Ceres furiously shouted that he was a hero and protecting humanity was his duty, so he would stay and fight with her. Even if it meant using up all his strength, he would stand there to block her. Sadiel attacked Ceres, asking if it was really true. She held his head with just one leg and made him fall to the ground. At that moment, Ceres' system got activated and the target was locked as Sadiel. Sadiel said that a guy who overestimated his abilities was nothing to her. On the other hand, the scorpion puppet stopped fighting. Seeing this, Tyre happily asked everyone to look as the monster's head turned red, indicating that their attacks were beginning to take effect. Ceres was surprised at how fast Sadiel was. Sadiel shared that the fact Ceres managed to come there, considering human strength, was quite impressive, but that's it. Lord Ney really hates it when humans step into his room. At that moment, she was putting her second leg on his face, but Ceres knew that the monster was too strong. He realized he must not let the monster go outside. He must stop her there. So he took his head a bit backward and furiously opened his mouth to bite her feet. From Ceres' act, she got embarrassed and shouted that it was so disgusting that Ceres actually did such a thing to her feet. On the other side, while the monster was fighting, Bella noticed that there hadn't been any movement for so long. She thought that Ceres hadn't been unconscious from the stone. She had to take him out. She called Tyr and asked him to cover her as she was going to take out Ceres from the rubble. Tyr got stunned and was asking her to wait, but it was too late as she ran before he could respond. While running, she was hoping for Ceres to be okay, but the scorpion puppet saw her and was going to attack. However, Tyr came in the way and blocked the attack with his sword, though it was very hard for him to block it for very long. Meanwhile, Bella was still wondering about Cirrus, as he was a hero after all, and it's just a pile of rocks, so he should be okay. On the other side, Sadiel lost her grip on Cirrus due to him licking her feet, which made her feel disgusted. Ceres was relieved that he finally got free from her headlock. Cirrus's system told him that he couldn't use the instant kill skill without holding a weapon. Upon hearing this, Cirrus got frustrated. If he had known that it was going to happen, he would have brought a weapon with him. Now, Cirrus had no option but to use his own hands to attack. He tried to punch Sadiel, but she dodged it and kicked at his face. While kicking, she felt that his face was so pulpy. Due to that kick, Cirrus flew through the air and bumped into the stone. Sadiel shared that she felt very comfortable kicking him. Hearing this, Cirrus had no response to give, and Sadiel also got tensed, wondering what was happening to her. So she decided to quickly defeat Cirrus, as it would be troublesome if outside humans ran into Lord Ney's room. She then took the tail of the puppet monster Cirrus had wiped and tried to attack with it. But Cirrus saw the attack coming and dodged it because his agility was good enough to dodge attacks. He then focused magic energy in his hand and sliced the tail into 2 parts. However, it was like a distraction to him because while he was slicing the tail, Sadiel came again with her leg and locked Cirrus's face in it. Her facial expression and words were totally different as she locked him to wipe, but her facial expression looked like she wanted to do something else. Sadiel shared that this time she wouldn't let him go and would strangle him with her feet. Ceres got furious and moved to hold her legs with his hands, determined to make Sadiel feel the power of his grip now. The moment Ceres touched her legs, Sadiel felt weird and quickly jumped away. But soon she stomped on his face with her leg, furiously asking him not to touch her legs with his dirty hands. She even used the cut pieces of the tail to hold his hand. Ceres was stunned to see that she used the scorpion tail he had just broken, and her suppression was so strong that he couldn't evade her attacks at all. She then again put her feet on his face, saying that she was going to crush his face. Even while she was crushing his face, Cirrus's powers were increasing, whereas Sadiel was feeling very good while she was putting her feet on his face. Until the agitation value reached 66%, she told Cirrus that humans were born to be trampled under her feet. But she was trembling, and due to that, the puppet monster outside fighting with Cyrus and others was also shaking. Seeing this, Tyr happily said that the monster had begun to lose its balance, so they should stay tight as they were about to win. On the other side, Sadiel was enjoying it as she was feeling amazing. Meanwhile, Bella was running towards the wall of stones when the scorpion tail was about to attack her. Tyr saw it and tried to warn Bella, but it was too late as she got attacked by the tail and was sent flying, colliding with the rocks. On the other side, Sadiel was touching Ceres in inappropriate places, to which he was shouting and asking her not to touch there, as she wasn't allowed. Near Cyrus, the tail was going to come towards him, and Cyrus was ready to block it. So somehow he dodged it with the help of his sword, but he noticed that even from such a long distance, the tail could still penetrate the wall, which meant the rank of the monster had surpassed that of an elite monster. There, Sadiel was feeling it very fluffy and pulpy, and the agitation value had reached 95%. On the other hand, Cyrus was about to be attacked by the scorpion puppet, and by the time Cyrus realized it was coming from behind, it was too late. He noticed that the Princess of Scorpio was coming, but being too late, he couldn't block them. However, to his relief on the other side, Sadiel became fully agitated and began acting very strangely, as if she were being seduced. So due to that, the scorpion monster also twitched and stopped. Cyrus was surprised to see that he blocked the attack, but he noticed that the monster was howling very weirdly. Seeing the monster so restless, Cyrus thought it would be his perfect chance. So he used his roaring tiger severing strike attack on the scorpion puppet, and the puppet flew away, falling to the ground. Seeing that, everyone got happy and started praising Cyrus for his power, as just with a single strike, he easily wiped out that monster. On the other hand, the agitation value was at 98%, which is why Sadiel was acting so strangely. Here, the monster starts vomiting, and seeing this, everyone thought that Cyrus's attack was so powerful that it made the monster howl in pain. They praised Cyrus, acknowledging that with him around, they didn't need to worry about any magical beast coming their way. Even Cyrus was wondering that the scorpion puppet didn't seem to be very strong, as he could easily defeat that monster. On the other side, something happened with Sadiel, and the monster started moving again, making everyone tense as it wasn't fully wiped out yet. So Cyrus asked everyone to step aside and let him deal with the scorpion puppet. He wanted them to witness the true power of their captain. Sadiel was tense, wondering what the hell had happened to her and why she was doing something like that with a human body. She decided that she had to stay calm. On the other side, Cirrus was wondering what to do, as her body was so resilient, especially her legs, and if it went on like that, she would completely drain him. So Cirrus shouted that he would never submit to her, but she pushed her leg inside his mouth to silence him, shouting for him to shut up because she didn't want to hear his voice. Ceres was getting a similar feeling to what he experienced with Yug, as he felt like he was being played by the girls. But at those times, his powers were increasing rapidly, gaining over 2,000 points each time. On the other side, the scorpion puppet was fighting with Cyrus, but due to Sadiel being seduced and losing her temper, the monster wasn't fighting at full power. Cyrus saw that the monster was losing its power, so he used his sacred whirlwind/attack, and the monster went down. Everyone was happy that Cyrus used his signature attack to defeat the monster, but then they noticed that the monster was still continuously roaring. They murmured that Cyrus was so strong that he had beaten the monster to the point of unconsciousness, causing it to roar uncontrollably. Cyrus then shared that the monster was nothing but a punching bag in front of him. Even Tyre praised Cyrus, saying he was so strong that he defeated the monster with a single strike. On the other side, Cyrus's defense increased by 3,304 points, and his agility increased by 4,310 points, making him much more powerful. Sadiel was enjoying the moment, but suddenly she heard the voice of her lord Nay asking why it was so noisy outside. Hearing the voice, she got tense and jumped off the body of Cyrus. She stepped back and tensely wondered whether it was over. As for a moment, she had actually forgotten Lord Nay's command. She must quickly wipe out the filthy humans and make amends for her mistake. Lastly, Cyrus's attack power increased by 10,000 points. He became so powerful that he exuded a killing aura and asked Sadiel whether she still wanted to continue playing with him. Sadiel got tense seeing his atmosphere, as it was completely different from before. Cyrus's chilling and oppressive presence was like that of Nay-sama. She wondered if she had to fight against someone like him. Seeing his killing intent, she ran away from him. Ceres was confused about why she ran away and whether he should go after her. However, he decided to forget it, as his goal was to obtain the blood of the demon god in the boss room. It was better not to consume physical strength, as Sadiel had already drained too much of his energy. On the other side, while everyone was praising Cyrus and his bravery, Bella tensely ran towards the walls of rock to find Cyrus. But before she could reach the wall, she saw someone breaking it with their legs. When Cyrus came out, he was surprised to see Bella. Bella asked him if he was all right and if he didn't get hurt. Cyrus responded that he was completely fine. But Bella, still observing everything, noticed that he was covered in dust, and she expressed concern that while it might not show on the surface, there could be internal injuries. She even suggested that he let the medical team take a look. Cyrus laughed and responded that he was truly fine. So Bella told him that if he felt unwell, he should let her know immediately. Ceres responded with a simple, "Okay." Meanwhile, Tyr was trembling with fury, seemingly harboring something in his heart for Bella. Cyrus asked everyone to listen, stating that from that moment on, they were going to follow behind him as he wanted them to witness his true strength, as he was going to defeat the boss alone. Hearing this, everyone was amazed and started praising their captain's mightiness. Cyrus was elated, thinking that the dungeon's danger level was certainly not at C rank, it was probably pushing at D rank at best. So, when he would return to the guild and share his achievements, it would surely lead to a promotion, which was a significant gain for him. The scene then shifted to Lord Nay's room, where Sadiel shared with Nay that there was a very powerful human outside. She didn't know what method he used, but his initially feeble strength skyrocketed to an unimaginable extent in an instant. She asked Nay to be more careful when facing that human. In a weird voice, Nay asked Sadiel what she commanded her. Tensely, Sadiel responded that she commanded her to guard the door and not let any creature enter his room. Upon hearing this, Naye furiously asked if she knew that, then what the hell was she doing out there with that human? Sadiel got tense and was about to respond, but before she could, Nay attacked her. A great blast occurred behind her, but the ray of light passed through her, instantly defeating her. Nay shouted that she didn't want to hear her lame excuses. After that, Nay picked her up with magic and threw her onto the corpses of many monsters and humans, saying that she should just become firewood. At that moment, Sadiel was murmuring that she didn't want to die yet. When Sadiel got thrown onto the corpses, a pond emerged with a green liquid substance inside. Nai shared that after waiting so long, she had almost finished using thousands of humans and monsters as firewood, and the blood of the demon god had finally begun to boil. Suddenly, someone barged into Nay's room by breaking the door. Hearing the sound of the door getting broken, Nay turned back and asked who was so brave and dared to set foot in her room. Cyrus responded that it's him, her daddy, who came to beat the hell out of her. Ceres saw the blood of the demon god, and his system told him that the blood of the demon god could eliminate toxins in his body after consuming it. Nai asks if Cyrus was the powerful human that Sadiel mentioned. Ceres also wonders if the green blood was the one that could detoxify him. Cyrus then asks everyone to listen to him, stating that no one was allowed to take action without his command, as he wanted to take on the boss of the C-rank dungeon by himself. Everyone starts cheering for Cyrus to go and defeat the boss, showing the power of humans and what they could do. Ceres was amazed to see that the thing placed on that platform was actually the blood of the demon god. Meanwhile, Cyrus was running towards Nay to defeat him, and everyone else was cheering for Cyrus. Upon reaching close, Cyrus jumped in the air and told Nay to feel his terror. However, Nay just used her thumb to counterattack, and in that attack, a fierce yellow light ray emerged, burning all the armor Cyrus was wearing. Cyrus also got thrown into the air and crashed into the wall. Seeing this, everyone got shocked and ran towards Cyrus to ask if he was okay. Nay asked if they only had Cyrus as the most powerful human being, and concluded that Sadiel was really useless. On the other side, Cyrus was shocked and wondered that the monster's attack didn't make any sense, as it shattered his A-rank armor with just one strike. Fortunately, he was wearing the S-level soft dragon scale armor that his brother gave him underneath. Otherwise, he would certainly have bid life goodbye. His teammates asked if he was alright, but Cyrus was still lost in thought, wondering what was going on with the underground dungeon and why there were so many differences in strength between monsters. He thought that it wasn't a good idea to fight those monsters head-on, so it would be better to use his team members to exhaust the monster's strength first. Then he would take action when the monster didn't have much strength left. In this way, his chances of winning would be a bit greater. Cyrus stood up and asked everyone to follow his order, charging forward and showcasing their own expertise. However, Tyr interrupted him, suggesting that a full charge assault without formation could result in many unnecessary casualties. He recommended sticking to their previous formation, with tankers using their large shields in front. Cyrus furiously asked Tyr whether he was questioning his judgment or trying to defy his commands. Tyr tensely responded that he wasn't daring to do so. Cyrus then told Tyr to stop talking and do whatever he was ordering. Cyrus then ordered everyone to pick up their weapons and charge forward, assuring them that he was their solid support and there was no need to be afraid. Everyone agreed and moved angrily towards the dungeon boss, Nay. Nay was also ready to attack back and said, "Here comes a bunch of humans who don't know whether to live or die, as their flesh and blood don't even qualify to become sacrificial altar firewood." Nay then shouted that she wanted to show them the difference between humans and monsters, and unleashed her despair-inducing disparity attack on a large scale. Most of them were burned down in that attack. Ceres held Bella and Mark, getting them out of the range of the attack. Most of them were burned, and some were injured. Even Cyrus somehow managed to escape the attack, but his sword was burnt to ashes. Cyrus was shocked to see his own sword destroyed. Nay then flew off into the air and asked Cyrus if he didn't say he would make her feel the sense of terror. Cyrus realized he couldn't win in this situation, so he quickly thought of running away from there. Tyr was stunned to see the burned bodies of his teammates, but to his surprise, he saw Cyrus trying to run, shouting at everyone to retreat. Those who were still alive listened to his command and left the boss room. Tyr got furious hearing that from Cyrus's mouth. But to Cyrus's shock, his hand was grabbed by someone. When Cyrus looked back, it was none other than Ceres. Ceres held his hand, saying that Cyrus had just said he was the solid support for the team members, and his battle against the boss wasn't over yet, so Cyrus couldn't leave. Cyrus tried to shake his hand to free himself from Ceres's grip, but it didn't work as he couldn't loosen Ceres's grip. Cyrus told Ceres that he was the team captain and his words were law. If Ceres wanted to stay and die, he was happy to do so, but he didn't want to drag Ceres into it. Even Nay furiously asked how Cyrus dared to trespass in her domain and wreak havoc in her room, yet still wanted to escape now. Nay then went for another attack. Seeing this, Cyrus got scared and tensely started shouting at Ceres, calling him a fool for not looking back, as the dungeon boss was about to unleash the same light beam again. He even tried to run by pulling his hand, but he was shocked to see that he wasn't able to pull his hand away, and wondered why Ceres had such a strong grip. Cyrus again asked Ceres to let go as the boss was aiming at them, but Ceres wasn't moving, so Cyrus got furious, thinking that he could defeat the boss on his own and also couldn't pull his hand away from Ceres. In his fury, he tried to lunge at Ceres, but Ceres grabbed his hand and twisted it. Due to the pain, Cyrus howled in agony. Ceres then pulled Cyrus towards himself and picked him up, preparing to throw him towards Nay. He shouted that as the captain, Cyrus must stick to his words. The moment Nay unleashed her attack, Ceres threw Cyrus towards the beam, saying that he should be a solid support for the team members. He instructed Cyrus to block the boss's attack with his body and cover his teammates for the retreat. Cyrus directly barged into the beam of light, allowing everyone else time to retreat. They ran outside while Cyrus got injured by the beam. One teammate got stunned upon seeing this. After that, Ceres furiously looked at Nay, shouting that it's his turn now. Bella shares that she wants to stay. Tyr also agrees with Bella, saying that he too wants to stay and deal with the monster. Bella responds that he doesn't need to stay, as she is staying because of Ceres. Tyr shared that he knows, but he was the first-ranked B-class hero, and he came to eliminate monsters, so he would never run away. He also expressed that he didn't want to take command from that idiot Cyrus again. On the other side, Naya asks Cirrus why he didn't run away even after witnessing her power, insinuating that Cirrus was looking down on her. Nae then goes to unleash the beam again, but Cirrus counters with the swift body slash, causing Nae to tense up and move her hand back. Nae became furious as Cirrus was so fast, but to her surprise, Cirrus started running towards the altar of the demon god's blood. Nae began to wonder why the human was running towards the altar. Soon, she wondered if it could be possible that the guy's goal wasn't to kill her, but rather to obtain the blood of the demon god. Ceres was continuously running towards the altar as he was just a few meters away from it. Nae tried to shout, asking Ceres to stay away from her altar. But at that moment, Bella and Tyre attacked Nae from behind, saying that it was the best opportunity for them. Surprisingly, Nae easily holds both of their swords and then aims towards Ceres, saying that Ceres was really a bastard who had speed like a cockroach. Bella shouts at Nae and asks her not to dare attack Ceres. Both Tyr and Bella try to push Nae back, and just as Nae unleashes her attack, her foot slips a bit, causing her aim to go off. Ceres is also able to dodge the attack due to the wrong aim. Ceres then happily jumps towards the altar, thinking that he almost got what he wanted. But the moment he got close to the altar, he saw a magic array. He got tense seeing it, and just as he touched the array, a blast occurred, and he was deflected from the altar. Nae shares that the magic array was personally created by her, and as long as she was alive, no living creature could cross it. Ceres also agrees with her, realizing that charging straight ahead and forcibly drinking the demon's god blood to detoxify wasn't feasible. They must defeat the boss to proceed. Suddenly, Ceres saw something in the gaps of the walls. On the other hand, Nae threw Bella and Mark, saying that they both were arrogant fools who underestimated their abilities. Both Bella and Tyre fell to the ground with a great impact, getting slightly injured. On the other side, Ceres was stunned to see that it was the same female monster who had just escaped from him, and he wondered how she ended up there. At that time, Nae was trembling and asked Ceres not to make any noise and not to let Nae know that she was there. Nae said that his ritual requires a calm and peaceful demeanor, so after wiping them out, he would quell his anger. Seeing this, Ceres got tense, thinking that Bella was in danger. So before leaving, Ceres placed the kale mushroom in front of Sadiel. Seeing this, Sadiel wonders about the kale mushroom and its ability to recover power. Ceres ran towards Bella, shouting that he was coming. On the other side, Sadiel took the mushroom and started eating. Afterward, she had tears of happiness in her eyes. Ceres' system shows that the female monster Sadiel developed feelings for the host, which caused the host to unlock the weapon unlocking requirements, thus unlocking weapon options. Suddenly, many anonymous cards with question tire signs appear in front of him, and the system shares that first, he has to see the detailed explanation of the weapon introduction rule. On the other hand, Tyre comes in front of Bella to protect her, saying that he will hold it back, and she has to escape quickly. Bella responds that her leg bone cracked again, so he has to escape without her. Here, Ceres shouts at the system to skip the explanation of the rules as he was going to rescue people now, and he didn't have any time to listen to nonsense. So the system skipped that and asks Ceres to choose a card. Ceres randomly chooses a card, and he receives a sword with red color arising around it. The system shares that he has obtained the weapon Exploding Garment Divine Sword. Furiously, Ceres jumps towards Nae, shouting and asking her to try his new weapon power and die. He then attacks her, but she holds his sword with one hand and starts laughing, saying that Ceres fell for it, as both Bella and Tyr were bait, and her real target was none other than him. She then unleashes her light beam attack, asking how he would escape from such a close distance. He shouts and tells her not to underestimate him, as he never said he was going to dodge. He slashes the sword with his full power, but it only manages to give Nae a scratch on her hand. She laughs at him, pointing out that despite exerting all his strength, he had only managed to graze her skin, and not a single drop of blood had been shed. She then explains that it's the difference between monsters and humans, but at that moment, her dress gets torn from above. Seeing this, she gets stunned and embarrassingly asks where her dress disappeared. Even Bella and Tyre were embarrassed to see that Ceres stripped the boss. Ceres was also tense as the monster was really powerful. At that time, his screen shares that the Exploding Garment Divine Sword, when striking with the sword, would cause enemies to have their clothes explode. When the enemy was naked, it would trigger the ultimate move, Divine Sword Descent. Nae got furious with Ceres for what she considered a despicable move, and for that, she was determined to wipe him out anyhow now. Ceres tried slashing her again, but this time she dodged it. Ceres thought that his previous attack hit her palm once, causing her clothes on top to burst open. In other words, he just needs to do it one more time, and he could knock off the robe underneath by attacking her legs. Afterwards, he would knock off her face mask, triggering the ultimate move. So all he needs to do is get close to the boss and keep using the skill Swift Body Slash. Ceres was sure that Nae wouldn't escape, and he could land an attack on her. Suddenly, Sirius's system shows that the host's current magic power was only enough to use Swift Body Slash 6 times, with a 10-second cooldown for the skill. Targeting a fresh enemy would allow an immediate activation of the skill. Hearing this, Sirius got disappointed, considering the skill to be ineffective. The system asks if Sirius wants to turn off the skill, but Sirius responds with a firm no. Sirius now thought that if it's the case, then he would grudgingly give it a shot. He furiously ran towards Ney to attack with Swift Body Slash, but Ney jumped in the air and dodged the attack. Sirius got tense because he again missed the attack. Meanwhile, Ney was wondering why Sirius kept targeting her legs when her upper clothes had already burst open. Did Sirius want to strip away her robe also? Just then, Sirius came again for an attack, but this time Ney furiously kicked at his face. Sirius received a big impact on his face, causing him to fly through the air due to the attack. Somehow, with the help of his sword, he manages to stop himself and lands on the ground. However, he was in deep pain as his nasal bone was almost broken, causing him significant discomfort. However, he then remembers the excruciating pain of his body melting after the toxin breakout, and he realizes that the pain of his broken nasal bone was nothing compared to that. Sirius becomes even more furious and runs towards Ney to attack, shouting that the little pain was nothing at all for him. Slowly, every passing second felt like an eternity as Sirius neared Ney, and as he reached her, the countdown also reached 1. He knew he could attack now. While he was running, Ney tried to attack with her laser beam, but Sirius managed to dodge the laser beam attack. Ney was tense seeing it, so Sirius goes for attacking with Swift Body Slash from a clash, wondering how Ney was going to dodge the attack from so close. Sirius hits her, feeling like he succeeded in landing the attack, but it's actually that he attacked her tail, and she was flying in the air. Ney shares that she never said she was going to run away. She also shouts that if it weren't for her fear of exposing herself, she could make bigger moves, and just with his speed, she could have beaten him to ashes a long time ago. Sirius got tensed at that time as Ney attacked him with the laser beam. He tried to dodge it using a skill and was attempting to attack back, but the screen showed that his skill had a cooldown. Sirius got frustrated, wondering why 10 seconds felt so long, so he had no choice but to face her head-on. Sirius then directly slashed with his sword without using any skill, putting his full power into it. Somehow he managed to deflect the laser beam. A big blast occurs due to the collision of the beam and his sword slash. Even Tyr was stunned to see that and wondered how Sirius actually blocked the boss's attack head-on. It seemed impossible, as his overall combat level was assessed as only F rank before the expedition. Even with combat of that caliber, as a B rank fighter, he was completely unable to intervene. On the other side, Sirius felt happy realizing the real attributes of the sword as they were truly amazing. He laughed and shared with Ney that now he could counter and easily avoid her attacks, making her attacks useless against him. Ney responds that Sirius was right. It's indeed difficult for her to kill him. She then aims towards Bella, confusing Sirius. She explains that it would be easy for her to wipe out the woman with the injured foot. She then goes for unleashing the beam, so Sirius hastily uses the Swift Body Slash and attacks at the nail of the finger by which she was attacking. He succeeds in breaking that nail, but he is too late as she unleashes her attack by that time. Sirius initially felt happy, but upon realizing that Bella was in danger now, he got tensed and ran towards her to save her. Seeing this, Naya laughed and shared that she knows stupid human beings always do those kinds of hero-saving things, which is why heroes always end up being killed by villains from behind. She lastly told him that he had been fooled and attacked with her second hand. On the other hand, Sirius realized that he had been too late to run towards them, and now he had only one choice left. Knowing that the Swift Body Slash would work immediately when he changed the target, he locked Bella as his target and used Swift Body Slash. So with that, he was able to block the attack, but in the process, he breaks the armor of Bella and Mark. Even Tyr was stunned to see that the aftermath shattered his armor. Nai was shocked to see that Sirius dodged it again. Suddenly she noticed that the altar was showing some weird actions, and she realized that she was so preoccupied with the battle that she forgot to add firewood to keep the demon god's blood warm. If she didn't immediately sustain the temperature of the altar, all the effort made up until now would be wasted, and she would have to wait another 100 years. On the other side, Bella starts acting as if she is getting seduced and wonders why she is feeling so weird and why her body feels so hot. His system shows that the agitation value had already reached 91%, indicating that she was already feeling something for Sirius, and now she was locked in, so she had even more attraction for him. Bella gets close to Sirius and holds his face as if she was going to kiss him. Seeing this, Tyr was also stunned. While she was so close to kissing him, Sirius remembers a past memory when Bella was 8 years old. It shows that she looks really scary. She asks what he is looking at, if he's never seen a gorgeous woman before, or if he wants to kiss her. The scene returns to the present where Sirius tensely moves back, saying that he didn't want to kiss her. Tyr also asks Bella what's wrong with her and whether she was going to kiss Sirius. Bella starts wondering whether she just took the initiative to kiss Cirrus, that her body moved on its own accord, and she even stuck out her tongue, all while they were still in the midst of the battle. Bella was getting tense and feeling very embarrassed, her whole face turning red. Tyr furiously asks why her face was still so red and why she was sweating. He questions whether she was poisoned or if she was just hallucinating and her body was out of control. Right. He was so sure that she was hallucinating, otherwise she wouldn't have done such things. On the other hand, Nai was focusing on the altar, as once the demon god's blood chills, it would take another 100 years to boil it again. She then pulls the corpses of the monsters and humans, sharing that she didn't want to wait that long again. So this time she must completely burn the blood of the demon god dry. Hearing this, Cirrus got tense and asks whether Nai really wants to burn the blood of the demon god dry. He then thinks that he must stop it quickly, but the boss was tremendously fast. He could hardly strike the boss. Then there's only one thing left, to let his strength increase to the point where the boss couldn't dodge his strike anymore. On the other side, Nai was putting all the corpses into the altar as the firewood, wondering if it should be enough to raise the temperature of the altar to the maximum. Ceres wants to instantly trigger the ultimate move of the explosive garment divine sword and wipe out Nai. So Ceres goes towards Bella and tells her that he has figured out a way to defeat the boss, but he needs her cooperation for a bit. Bella asks what. Ceres responds that as long as she and he do some romantic things like kissing, cuddling, and so on, he could increase his strength and defeat the boss. Hearing this, both Bella and Tyr feel embarrassed. And even Tyr wonders how Ceres could say such vulgar things with a serious expression on his face. Ceres holds Bella's hand and says that he knows it would be hard for her, but he begs her. Bella is so seduced that she doesn't know how to respond, but Tyr interrupts them by pulling Ceres's hands away from holding her. Tyr furiously says that he thinks it all sounds like bullshit. He believes Ceres clearly wants to take advantage of Bella, and they are in the middle of a battle, yet Ceres is thinking about vulgar things. What a pervert Ceres is. Tyr then turns towards Bella to tell her not to trust Ceres, but to his shock, Bella shares with Ceres that she trusts his words. Tyr is fully stunned, and here Bella puts her hands on Ceres's shoulder, telling him that it was also embarrassing for her, so not to take it the wrong way. She only agreed because she wants the monster boss to be defeated, and she actually didn't have any desire to do all those things with him. While Bella was holding Ceres's face, Ceres again remembers the childhood moment when Bella was going to kiss him, and he was scared to see her face and hear her talk. At that time, he shouts that he didn't want to play the game anymore. But remembering that, in the present time, he gets tense, shouting in his mind at Bella not to do that thing with him. So, just as in childhood, he pushed her away. Ceres pushes her in the present time and says that it's a close call. He almost got killed. In that process, his system shows that Tyr took a critical hit. At that time, Bella was wondering why Ceres pushed her away. Ceres got a notification that his level increased by 1 level and all stats had been increased by 5,000 points. Seeing this, Ceres got amazed and realized that it's certainly because of Mark. He got happy that now he didn't need to touch Bella's body and recall that terrible memory. Ceres told Bella that if it's very difficult for her, then they should not do it, and so he was going to defeat the boss. Hearing this, Bella got sad and asked Ceres to wait, suggesting that what if he still couldn't defeat the boss and if he needed her help. Meanwhile, the agitation value of Bella had reached 99%. Ceres responds with a mock face, saying he didn't want her help, and then he runs towards Nai. Hearing a no, Bella feels hurt and asks why. She even wonders why Ceres didn't have any interest in her at all. Tyr then interrupts her and says that he gets it. Ceres is stronger than him. That's why she has a crush on Cyrus. But he still wants to ask. Bella asks if it could be that thing again. The scene shifted to Ceres, where he was wondering that to activate the finishing move, he must hit both the head and the legs at the same time. Earlier, he almost hit the boss's leg, but now all his stats had been increased by 5,000 points, so if he could just find the correct opportunity using Swift Body Slash, he could surely achieve it. On Naia's side, she was confused as the altar was still not connected, wondering why the temperature was still so low. If she didn't fix it soon, the temperature would drop rapidly, so she thought of using the filthy humans to make up for a little bit of warmth. Nai flies towards Ceres and tells him to be proud, as they were going to become the firewood for her sacrifice, which was the highest praise she could offer to them. She then shares that it's time for her to unleash her full power now, so she starts collecting her full power in the middle to attack all at once. Ceres was also stunned to see it, as the ball formed with the power was very big. When Nai furiously attacks towards him, he tries to block it with the help of his sword, but while he was blocking, he was getting the notification that his magic points were decreasing rapidly. Slowly but surely, his magic points were coming towards 0. Finally, he somehow manages to deflect the attack, but his whole magic power nearly reaches 0. Now he only has 11 magic points left, and he can't use any skills due to the low magic value. Ceres got tense, realizing that he had no power left and he didn't know what to do. Nae got happy and told him that she knew his magic power had been depleted and the battle was over now. Ceres was wondering what to do, but to his surprise, Bella came and held his face, saying that he clearly needed her help. She then put his face on her chest, which shocked and heartbroken Mark. Ceres also thinks that Tyr was a good man. Bella also thought that she had already told Tyr a long time ago that she already had someone in her heart, and from childhood to the present moment, it had never changed. Due to her and Tyr getting heartbroken, Ceres got a 5-level increase in his power, and a glow was emanating from his body. Ceres realized that there was a surge of power rising within him. He received a notification that all his stats had been increased by 27,500 points. Seeing this, Nae was shocked, thinking that it was impossible. Ceres should have no room to fight back against her now. Ceres was now glowing intensely, as if he had gained a superior power. Nae said that no matter how much strength he increased, he was still just a mere human being, and in front of monsters, he was nothing but an ant. But while she was talking, Ceres ran towards her and attacked with full power. Nae countered, stating that she could always dodge such attacks. However, Ceres swiftly slashed at her body. Nae didn't realize at the time of Ceres's attack, but when her mask and robe got torn off, she was stunned to see that he had really destroyed her mask. With that attack, Ceres' system showed that the ultimate move, Holy Sword Descent, had been unlocked. Nae furiously shouts at how dare he ruin her face. She then gathers all her power and infuses it into a beam the size of a ball. Ceres attacks Nae as well, and she tries to counterattack. A big blast erupts in the room. The beam also strikes her, and the entire ground is destroyed within seconds, leaving only the line of ground on which Ceres was standing. Even Bella and Tyr are greatly impacted by the blast. After the fog dissipates, Ceres sees that Nae is lying unconscious on the ground, believing he has won. Ceres' system shows a cooldown of 20 seconds for the Divine Sword Descent. He then runs towards the altar, but is shocked to see that the magic altar is still active. He wonders why the magic altar hasn't been deactivated. Suddenly he hears Nae's voice asking if he thought he had already won, as she would never allow filthy humans to touch the demon god's blood. Ceres notices that there are still 9 seconds left on the cooldown. He shouts back at Nae that he will end her in 9 seconds. But then Ceres looks towards Bella and sees that her health is dangerously low, on the brink of death. Nae stands up, shouting that she won't let him have his way as long as she's still breathing. She challenges Ceres to come forward and see who will emerge victorious, humans or monsters. Ceres finds himself in a critical situation, torn between rescuing Bella and Tyr and continuing the fight for the demon god's blood. He prioritizes Bella and Mark, neglecting Nae. Ceres swiftly flies towards the entrance to leave the room. Nae is momentarily relieved as they depart, thinking that humans are indeed foolish. On the other hand, Ceres shouts at the map to open and find the shortest route to the exit, as he needs to get to the hospital as quickly as possible now. Just as he gets out of the room, he is attacked by monsters. Ceres quickly gets ready to fight them. Until then, Bella remains unconscious, recalling her childhood memories. She remembers everyone laughing at her, mocking her appearance and questioning who would want to kiss her. Bella still longs to play the house game, but others sarcastically suggest she play the role of a gorilla instead. At that time, Ceres was approaching her, and some children tried to warn him not to go near her, saying he would get infected and turn into an ugly freak. To their surprise, Ceres slaps one of the boys. The scene shifts to the present time, where Ceres easily defeats the monster with a swift body-slash attack. Meanwhile, in Bella's dream, the child who was slapped by Ceres is crying. Ceres tells Bella that the game isn't over yet, explaining that because he's a boy and she's a girl, he should play the dad, and she should play the mom. He promises to take responsibility for her. In the present time, after defeating the monster, Ceres reassures Bella that she will be fine. Meanwhile, on Nae's side, she looks at the altar, realizing she needs to add more firewood to maintain the temperature and cannot allow it to decrease. So, when she had no other option, Nae decided to sacrifice herself for that cause. On the other side, Ceres was battling monsters that stood in his way to stop him. Meanwhile, in the boss room, Nae shattered into pieces as she threw herself onto the altar as firewood. Before dying completely, she shouts to the holy demon god that she can no longer serve him personally. Meanwhile, Ceres fights with the dragon monster and uses his sword to attack. But as soon as he defeated the dragon monster, his exploding garment divine sword disappeared. His system notified him that the enemy had been defeated and the weapon had returned to the system. The system indicated that the weapon would be available again in 12 hours. So Ceres thought it didn't matter anymore, as they were almost at the exit. The scene shifts to the outside of the dungeon exit, where Ceres and some of his teammates are shown. Everyone is overjoyed that they made it out of the dungeon alive. While Ceres was thinking about how close he came to dying in the underground dungeon, he reflects that even his dragon-scale armor was shattered, all because of that damned Ceres. He speculates that Cirrus should have been defeated by the dungeon boss by now. Suddenly, someone sees Cirrus returning with Bella and Tyre in hand, and they inform Cyrus that Cirrus is alive. Cyrus is stunned by this news, and Cirrus looks very serious as well. Cyrus pulls out a sword from one of his teammates and shouts, questioning how Cirrus dared to follow them secretly and attempt to escape. He demands an explanation from Ceres, asking how he could defy his orders and try to run away. As the captain, Cyrus declares that Cirrus has lost his qualifications to be part of the expedition team, and states that he won't consider using the guild's medical resources to prolong Cirrus's life any longer. Cyrus then shouts that he's going to make sure of it right then and there and prepares to attack. However, to everyone's surprise, Cirrus kicks Cyrus in the face and uses him as a stepping stone to jump forward, stating that he doesn't have time to waste on him. Cyrus appeared to be unconscious, while the others were shocked and shouting at Cirrus, questioning how he dared to attack their captain. One member shouted and informed everyone that it was serious because Cirrus had kicked the captain and caused him to faint. They needed to hurry and take the captain to the hospital. The scene then shifted to the guild hospital, where the ward boys were seen running with Bella and Tyr on stretchers, shouting about an emergency case. Ceres felt relieved after ensuring Bella and Tyr were delivered to the hospital safely. He decided to quickly return to the dungeon because he was just one step away from obtaining the demon god's blood to cure the poison. The scene shifted to the dungeon where a red-colored substance was emanating from the altar. Gradually, it rose up and began taking the shape of a humanoid figure. Sadiel observed everything and wondered what kind of entity Boss Nay had summoned when sacrificing herself, as he gazed upon his transformed appearance. It seems like Nay was living under the identity of Bio in front of everyone, and they didn't know she was actually a girl. The red-colored substance formed into a dress-like shape, and a hand emerged from inside. As the hand emerged, the atmosphere grew intense. Feeling the sensation, Sadiel became tense and described it as a chilling feeling, as if she were being stabbed by countless needles into her bones. A monster with a human appearance emerged from the red substance and remarked that the scene felt very familiar, as if it were truly her own domain. When she first appeared, Azathoth had a boyish body but long hair like a girl. Sadiel, feeling the intense sensation, tensely tried to run away from there, thinking that the place was becoming too dangerous. Azathoth felt Sadiel's presence and approached the wall, pushing it with a finger. With her touch, the entire wall started collapsing, startling the monsters standing on the floor above as they wondered why their floor was exploding. Azathoth had caused this to reveal the person she sensed. After falling, every monster was hurt, and speculated whether Boss Nay had caused the collapse. However, one of them shouted for everyone to look up, pointing out that the underground dungeon had collapsed and they could now see the sky above. They speculated whether the collapse was caused by Boss Nay, but quickly dismissed the idea, realizing it required someone with greater power than Boss Nay possessed. While they debated, Azathoth interjected, stating that Nay was dead and that she now needed a servant. Hearing this, the monsters grew tense and debated whether they should escape or stay. One monster even approached Azathoth, stating that their lineage had endured over time due to their immense power, and they were willing to follow someone even more powerful than Boss Nay. Everyone else starts clamoring that they also want to serve, but Azathoth shouts that they are all too ugly and proceeds to destroy them. Azathoth declares that she doesn't want ugly minions. She then walks towards Sadiel, complimenting her appearance, and instructs Sadiel to look up and open her mouth. With tears in her eyes, Sadiel opens her mouth, and Azathoth pours her blood into it, instructing her to drink. After drinking, Sadiel feels a sudden change in her body, sensing a different sensation as if her body is beginning to heal itself. Azathoth approaches Sadiel and explains that Sadiel's body should be feeling very comfortable because her blood has the ability to repair all damage, fortify the immune system, and enhance strength. Azathoth adds that during the digestion process, it could bring Sadiel immense pleasure. Azathoth then tells Sadiel that it's getting dark, and advises her to go find a clean room waiting for her. Sadiel, unsure of what to say, agrees by nodding her head. The scene then shifts to the guild's headquarters, where it shows Darren holding Cyrus's head. Darren, visibly furious, demands to know what Cyrus said about the mission failing. Cyrus apologizes to Darren and explains that if he loses his position as captain, Darren would have to take over and audit the remaining assets of the guild's investigation team. He urges Darren to come up with a solution to the situation. Cyrus also tries to convey that if it's discovered they have been secretly selling the guild's resources, it would be a serious issue. However, Darren pushes Cyrus back and shouts at him to keep quiet, stating that he already knows that. Darren then asks Cyrus if he just said someone in his team went against his orders. Cyrus confirms this and mentions that the person's name is Cirrus. Darren checks the document and sees that Cirrus is an F-rank hero. He instructs Cyrus to place all responsibility for the failure on Cirrus and orders that he be sentenced to death for desertion. The scene shifts to the dungeon, where Cirrus is confused to see its collapsed state. He rushes towards the altar to check if his antidote is still intact. but he is shocked to see that it's empty. Meanwhile, Sadiel quietly waits for Azathoth, sitting in place. Suddenly, Azathoth puts her hands on Sadiel's shoulders, prompting Sadiel to ask Azathoth not to do it. Surprisingly, Azathoth hugs Sadiel from behind, and Sadiel is stunned. She feels something soft touching her back. Sadiel, who initially thought Azathoth was a boy, becomes confused as she tries to reconcile this perception with the soft sensation she is feeling. Out of nowhere, Azathoth whispers something in Sadiel's ear, causing her to be seduced by it and move aside from the hug. Embarrassed, Sadiel turns back and is stunned to see Azathoth, whose appearance has suddenly changed to that of a proper girl. Azathoth asks Sadiel if she doesn't like hugs. Confused, Sadiel asks how Azathoth could change like that. Azathoth explains that there's nothing surprising about it, as at night she loses all her strength and reverts to her true self, a girl. Azathoth also explains that during the night, Sadiel must protect her and eliminate anyone with ill intentions towards her. She warns Sadiel not to attempt to harm her or escape, as consuming her blood during the day allows Azathoth to resonate with Sadiel's blood, potentially causing Sadiel's body to dissolve instantly even at night. Sadiel is compelled to obediently listen to her instructions. On the other hand, Ceres is tense as he searches everywhere in the dungeon for the blood of the demon god, but can't find it. He wonders if the blood of the demon god must be hidden somewhere in the dungeon, holding on to hope. Ceres asks the system to open the map so he can scout every corner of the dungeon thoroughly. Here, Azathoth explains to Sadiel that she doesn't want things to end up like this, but her heart is sealed within the Heroes Guild, preventing her from being in her complete form. As a result, at night, she transforms into a weak human. But as long as she waits until daytime and restores the power of the demon god, they will head to the Heroes Guild headquarters to retrieve her heart. When that happens, every monster in the world, whether it's day or night, will once again bow to the might of her power. Suddenly, Sadiel hears footsteps approaching, so she moves to go and investigate. Azathoth stops Sadiel and instructs her that during any fights, she must stay within a 5-kilometer radius. Azathoth warns that if Sadiel exceeds this range, she will consider it an attempt to escape and threaten to dissolve her body. Azathoth asks Sadiel again if she understands, and Sadiel responds with a yes. On the other side, Ceres' system informs him that the blood of the demon god is in Neye's underground dungeon. Ceres is happy to learn that it's indeed in the dungeon. Ceres runs towards the room where Azathoth and Sadiel are staying, thinking it's the last room of the dungeon he hasn't checked yet. Before he reaches the room, Sadiel hides beside the door, ready to attack him. When Sadiel attacks Ceres with a kick, he easily dodges it. Sadiel is shocked to realize it's the same human she met earlier that morning. Meanwhile, Azathoth starts feeling strange and wonders what's happening as her body twitches unexpectedly. This usually only occurs when she's close to her heart. Sadiel asks why Ceres came back when Neye was already dead. She urges him to leave the dungeon before daylight. Ceres is stunned to see Sadiel's body, which has regained enough strength to fight. He then asks Sadiel if she enjoyed the mushroom-flavored treat he gave her. Hearing this, she gets embarrassed and responds that it wasn't tasty at all. It was the most disgusting mushroom she had ever eaten in her life. She tells him to get lost, but Ceres' system shows that Sadiel's favorability rating is at 71%. Ceres is happy to see this and comments that she is blushing, and her favorability towards him is higher than he expected. Before he could finish speaking, she kicks towards him, saying he was talking nonsense and she didn't have any liking towards him at all. She kicks again, this time hitting her own face, and she crushes it, expressing that her feelings towards humans were just disgusting. But suddenly, to her surprise, his body disappeared from beneath her leg. She is stunned, and when she turns around, she sees that he is running towards the room. Sadiel wonders how he managed to escape after she clearly stepped on his face. Ceres explains that he has urgent matters to deal with, so they can play later. As he reaches the door, he senses that the blood of the demon god is behind it. Before he can open the door, Azathoth opens it herself, and accidentally, Ceres puts his hand on her chest. He is shocked to see a human girl there in the dungeon. Realizing his hand is on her chest, he quickly retracts it. Sadiel asks Azathoth why she came out. Due to Ceres placing his hand on her chest, she furiously grabs his hand and squeezes it.